cannot leave you, so it breaks my heart to go. Something tells me I am needed at the front to fight for the poor. See the boys in blue are marching, and I can no longer stay. Once I hear the bugle calling, goodbye, darling, goodbye.
G'day everyone, welcome to part 9 of the series. Player number 33, Matthew Fell. Matthew Foster Fell, born on the 23rd of August in 1875 in Gisborne, was an 180cm ruckman and general defender, recruited from junior club Tuggama, which isn't far away from Yarrawonga in Victoria. He would record 116 games for the club and play in 4 grand finals of the era, playing in both wins of 1902 and 1903. However, like so many of these old warriors, not much is known of Matthew. It's surprising, actually, given the amount of games he's played. After his final season at the Pies, it appears he was around the Melbourne area for another decade before moving to Fremantle in Western Australia and worked as a labourer. He would die on the 17th of March in 1957 in Fremantle and was buried at the Fremantle Cemetery, aged 81. Player number 34 is a man by the name of Bill Kennedy. William Patrick Kennedy, born on the 3rd of August in 1875, was an 180cm back pocket recruited from the Fitzroy Juniors. Unfortunately, he's another man without a surfaced photo. Also, very little known of him. We know that the singular goal of his career came against Fitzroy in 1898, and really, that's about it. He died on the 28th of December in 1939, aged 64, in Melbourne. Hopefully someone's out there that's connected to Bill can stumble across this and, fill us in with some more information. Would love to hear it. Player number 35, Mick Lynch. Unfortunately, we don't have a photo of Mick. Joseph Michael Lynch, born on the 12th of May in 1878 in Geelong, was an 173cm full forward recruited from Richmond City. For Mick Lynch, his chance to play VFL football came out of a tragic situation. After the 1897 season, Footscray footballer Harry Clayton, described at the time as a sterling little player, sadly passed away. To help support his grieving family, Footscray organised a benefit match before the 1898 season, with Collingwood agreeing to play against them. The match was treated more like a practice game by Collingwood, with some younger players given the chance to impress. One of those players was 19-year-old Mick Lynch, a forward from Richmond City who was trying to earn a spot at the highest level, and he took his chance. Lynch played brilliantly in that match, and after also impressing in the practice games that followed, he earned a place in Collingwood's senior side for the opening round of the 1898 season. He couldn't have asked for a better start. On debut, Lynch kicked 2 goals in the first quarter and finished the game with 3. The Magpies looked like they may have found a special talent, and for most of 1898, that's exactly how it looked. Lynch was a dangerous forward who was quick, strong, and knew where the goals were. Standing at just 5'8", he was not a big player for the time, but he made up for it with his work rate and skill. Playing alongside Collingwood star Archie Smith, who we spoke about a few videos ago, Lynch became an important part of the forward line. Smith would go on to win the VFL goal kicking that season with 31 goals, but Lynch's 15 goals from 14 games was still an impressive effort, putting him among the top 10 goal kickers in the competition. Like we said, you've got to look at it as in the match scores and stuff back then. It's, 15 goals. Any more than a goal a game was super elite back then. The newspapers quickly started taking notice. Lynch was described as brisk, an acquisition, and ever busy. One writer even suggested he had shown better all-round football than Archie Smith in some matches. So when Lynch was dropped after 6 games to make room for the experienced Bold Gillard, many people were surprised, while we also spoke about a few videos ago. The Australasian newspaper wrote that Collingwood had their strongest team available, or room would have been made for Lynch, who had impressed with the clever work around goal. He returned the next week and showed exactly why people were excited about him, kicking another 3 goals, this time against eventual premiers Fitzroy. But then, just as quickly as his VFL career began, it ended. In 1899, Lynch returned to Richmond City. Whether it was Collingwood's decision or his own is unclear, but the promising forward was gone from the top level after just one memorable season. Years later, Lynch's life took another path. In 1915, at the age of 36, he enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force. By then, he was working as an engine driver and living in Yarraville. He served in France during World War I and was wounded twice in battle, and eventually returned home to Australia after suffering ongoing health problems. Mick Lynch only played one season of VFL football, but he certainly made it count. One of those what could have been guys. Mick died on the 14th of June in 1944, aged 66, in Kew, Victoria. Player number 36, Bobby McCubbin. Love that name. Robert Lorimer McCubbin, born on the 16th of June in 1868 in Woodend, Victoria, was an 182cm follower, recruited from Williamstown. Fortunately, for a man who only played 6 games, he has an interesting story for us. Bob was one of the best footballers of his era, but by the time the Pies got their hands on him, his best years were probably already behind him. McCubbin also came from Woodend and joined Williamstown in 1891. Almost immediately, he became one of their most important players. Williamstown were pretty much cellar dwellers and regularly faced the strongest teams in Victoria, including Essendon, South Melbourne, Fitzroy and Collingwood. Bob was a follower, and he was a superb all-round player who could win the ball, take a strong mark, kick well, and even push forward to hit the scoreboard. He wasn't at all flashy, but he was incredibly reliable. Week after week, he was one of Williamstown's best performers. His ability was recognised beyond club football as well. Bob represented Victoria twice in interstate matches in the 1890s, performing well against South Australia and Norwood. But football wasn't the only place where Bob McCubbin showed courage. As a teenager in Woodend, he saved another young boy from drowning at the local waterhole. The community rewarded him with a specially engraved gold pocket watch for his bravery. Years later, he became a hero again when he spotted a house fire when passing by in Woodend. Before the fire brigade even arrived, McCubbin rushed inside and managed to put out the flames, saving the property from serious damage. Despite being a star at Williamstown, McCubbin even tried to step up to bigger clubs. His first attempt came in 1893 when he trained with Melbourne, but during a time when clubs were accused of secretly paying players to switch teams, you got to remember as well, it was amateur football back then, his transfer was blocked by the VFA. McCubbin explained that he had thought any expenses being covered were from supporters, not the club itself, but the officials refused to clear him. A few years later, the Pies came calling. For the 1898 season, the Magpies invited the experienced McCubbin to trial with them. He impressed enough to make the senior side and played in the opening round against Geelong. However, despite playing 5 games, he never quite reached the heights he had shown at Williamstown. Unfortunately, it had just passed him. By the next year, he was back playing local football in Woodend. Away from football, McCubbin was a well-known figure in his hometown. He was related to famous Australian painter Frederick McCubbin. I'd heard that name before, so I just took a little detail and looked at some of the art. It's actually really beautiful and very Australian, sort of outback Australian Victoria sort of thing. The two would sometimes catch up while Frederick was staying at his retreat at Mount Macedon. Bob never married and lived with his sister Annie at their family home, known as McCubbin Cottage. He remained heavily involved in the Woodend community, playing cricket, tennis, football, joining the Rifle Club, and even helping with the local fire brigade. From what I gather, after he put that fire out, he became, quite well known. When he finally retired from football in 1903, he did it on his own terms. He was captain, had just been named Woodend's best player for the season, and walked away at the top. Bob McCubbin may have only played a few games at the Pies, but it's very nice to have such details on him. He passed away on the 10th of March in 1950, aged 81, in Kyneton.